Now for the frameworks to work, what is critical is you will have to read and understand the argument very, very carefully. The framework is to be applied during the pre-thinking stage. We will explain the framework with the help of the following passage. Here is the passage along with the question. The answer choices to this question have been provided later after we will have finished explaining the framework. Hit the pause button while you read the question and while you pre-think. Resume to follow through with the discussion on the framework. Let us analyze the stimulus. In the first sentence, the author presents a premise. He says that the farmers of Lesotho want to protect their rice crops from devastation by pests, and therefore they have decided on a plan. They want to introduce a species of black ants. The next sentence provides another premise, and this is a third-party finding. It talks about research conducted on ants, which says that the ants secrete liquids that can be absorbed by the soil, and once the liquid is absorbed by the soil, it can help the plants to ward off pests that year after year reduce the yields. Based on these two premises, the author concludes that the farmers are expecting full yields in the coming season. Thus, we can see that the first sentence of the passage presents a plan and a goal. The second sentence is also a premise that contains a third-party finding. This premise presents the mechanism of the plan. It explains how the plan will actually work against the pests. It also tells us that the pests reduce the yields by half year after year. And based on the second premise, the author draws the conclusion. Once we have analyzed the stimulus, now we can move to the pre-thinking step. Since we have established in the step 1 that this question is based on the structure of a plan and a goal, we can put in the framework. Let us see what this framework is. The first step of the framework is to identify the exact plan. We must be very clear about what the plan is. A long sentence may have just 4 words which actually convey the plan. During the learning stage, you could use rough notes to jot down the plan in a short phrase. The next step is obviously to identify the goal of the plan. Again, be precise while doing this. The goal goes down next in your rough notes. The third step is to follow the 3 guidelines. What happened during the planning stage? What happened during the execution stage? And what is the connection between the plan and the goal? Let us apply this framework to the example that we have just discussed earlier. In that example, the exact plan was to introduce a species of black ants. The goal of the plan was to protect the rice crops from pests. Now let us look at the 3 guidelines and see how to pre-think while using these guidelines. The first of the guidelines is to think what happened during the planning stage. What happened when the plan was being made? Consider what is given about the steps taken to formulate the plan. And then think of some unknown factor that would impact the goal. Now we know that the plan was made based on the findings of a research. The plan was made because the research said that the black ants secrete liquids that help drive away the pests. Now this research is a third-party finding, and we know that we can doubt third-party findings. We can challenge third-party findings. Therefore, what if the findings of the research are not correct? In that case, the black ants may not be effective, and the expectation of full yields might not materialize. Thus here, the author has made the assumption that the research findings are accurate and will work as expected. So this is how we should think along the lines of what happened during the planning stage. Let us move to what happened during the execution stage. The next guideline is what happened during the execution stage. Consider what is given about the steps taken to execute the plan. Once you have thought of the steps, think about what adverse effects or fallouts of the plan could take place that would impact the goal adversely. Since the farmers have just decided to introduce the black ants, there is no information about any of these adverse effects. Yet, we can think ahead. The passage talks about one effect of the black ants. What about alternate effects that could affect the conclusion? What if the black ants start eating away at the plants themselves? In that case, the yields would again be devastated. Thus, the author assumes that the farmers have assumed that the black ants themselves will not feed on the plants. Here's another thought. What if the liquids secreted by the ants and absorbed by the plants reduce the plant yields? That will defeat the purpose of the plan as well. Thus, the farmers have assumed that the liquid secretions of the black ants will not cause any harm to the crops so as to reduce the yields. Let us now look at the third guideline, that is, what is the connection between the plan and the goal? Following the third guideline is looking for a missing link that is mandatory for connecting the plan to the goal. Any piece of information which is necessary for connecting the dots between the plan and the goal but has not been given must have been assumed. Now we know that the conclusion states that the farmers are expecting full yields this season. And this expectation is because the farmers expect the black ants to drive away the pests. Now think, what if something else other than pests cause devastation to the plants in the coming season? Say some weather condition, heat wave, or absence of the required amount of rainfall causes damage to the crops in the coming season. In that case, the farmers cannot expect a full yield anymore. Thus, the farmers have assumed that nothing else will cause any harm to the crops to reduce the yields. There you have it. You can see how easy and smooth it becomes to think along these guidelines. We were able to come up with multiple assumptions when thinking along the given guidelines. Now, when given choices to choose from, let us see if we can eliminate the incorrect choices and choose the correct one based on the above pre-thinking, guided by our pre-thinker's guide for a plan goal type of question. Here are the 5 choices for the given question. Go through them one by one in the context of the pre-thinking that we have just performed. Hit the pause button while you go through the choices and resume to follow through with the discussion on each. Here are the assumptions that we came up with, and let us analyze choice A in the light of these assumptions. Choice A says the yields this coming season will fetch higher profits than expected by the farmers. Now the conclusion is concerned with a full yield. Whether that yield fetches higher profits is not the concern of the argument, and therefore this choice is out of scope and is not the correct choice. Let us now move to choice B. Choice B. The secretions of the black ants add nitrogen to the soil, which helps in enhancing the taste of the rice grains. Now this choice supports the farmer's plan. However, it is not a must-be-true condition for the conclusion to hold true. If still in doubt, we can apply the trial by negation technique to double check. Let us negate choice B. Negated choice B reads, the secretions of the black ants do not add nitrogen to the soil, which helps in enhancing the taste of the rice grains. Now, even if no nitrogen is added to the soil by the secretions, the yield can still be expected to be more. The conclusion does not break down, and therefore, this choice is just a strengthener and not the correct choice. Let us now move to choice C. Choice C. The black ants are herbivores and are known to have a voracious appetite. Now, this choice indicates that the black ants might turn to eating away at the rice plants too if their appetite is not satisfied. This choice is therefore a weakener and not the correct choice. Let us move to choice D. Choice D. All other conditions required for proper plant growth will remain favorable in the coming season. Now, this choice is built along the lines of our assumption number 4. Notice how the language of the pre-thought assumption and the choice is not the same. Assumption 4 says nothing else will cause any harm to the crops, and choice D says all other conditions required for the proper plant growth will remain favorable. Essentially, they are saying that the crop yields will not be reduced due to any reason. We were able to choose this choice as the correct choice because we were able to pre-think correctly. Using guidelines telling us how to pre-think properly, therefore helps us to eliminate the incorrect answer choices and choose the correct answer choices with efficiency and accuracy. Let us make sure we eliminate choice E on solid grounds of reasoning, choice D being the correct choice. Choice E. The farmers have decided to go for pest-resistant variety of seeds in the coming season. Now this choice goes against the intention of the passage. The farmers have already decided to take one measure to keep away the pests. The measure stated in this choice shows that the farmers do not believe that the ants will be able to ward off pests. Thus, this choice is the opposite of what is given and therefore is the incorrect choice. You can see how efficiently we were able to solve the question armed with a 3-step GMAT quiz methodology, and more importantly, we were able to pre-think correctly because of the Pre-Thinker's Guide framework. Let us now look at the framework for another very commonly used construction on GMAT CR questions, the causality arguments.